A lot of people want to start off this conversation by asking, where should I be putting my money away if I want to invest for my child's education, without actually understanding how much do I need in the future to be able to pay for my child's education. Hey guys, my name is Nicolette Mashile. I am also known as The Financial Bunny. Welcome to The Financial Bunny TV. Today we're talking about how do you plan for your child's future education. In fact, I'm going to start calling it a liability from here on in the video because simply that is what it is, right? If you are planning to put money away today to be able to pay for your child's education in the future, that is a future promise, which means that it is a liability. Yes, you are going to be making an investment right now, but it is a future liability. Now, before I get into today's video, please do remember that none of my videos constitute as financial advice. If you are, however, looking for financial advice, to speak to somebody who's certified and registered with the FSCA. And do remember that at Financial Fitness Bunnies, we also do one-on-one personal financial coaching, which can help you get a sense of where you are with your finances, and then you can transition to financial planning. So, a lot of people want to start off this conversation by asking, where should I be putting my money away if I want to invest for my child's education, without actually understanding how much do I need in the future to be able to pay for my child's education. That is essentially how you need to place, or rather to frame the narrative. If you can understand what is the future liability going to cost you, then we can reverse engineer how much you need to put away today. So let me start off by telling you guys a story. So a couple of years ago, my father was going to go on retirement, right? So he was going to be turning 60. And one of the things we knew as a family was the fact that my father was going to probably take his cash component of his pension and buy himself a car. What does that actually do? It means that what he's going to do is he's going to take a portion of the money that was put away for his pension to purchase a car, meaning that he changes the picture of what his retirement outcomes could potentially look like. So now if he was able to buy retirement of 10,000 Rand a month, he's probably not going to be able to do it because the cash component of that money is going to go into purchasing a car. So what we then decided was that we are going to buy him a car. So what should have happened so that my father would have been prepared for this car purchase is that a couple of years prior to him getting to retirement age, a financial advisor was supposed to sit with him, or a financial planner, a CFP, was supposed to sit with him and say, okay, Mr. Mashile, you would like to purchase a car in 5 years' time. So let's say this happens at age 55, he's retiring at 60. So at age 55 or even age 54, we would sit down and say, okay, at age 60, you would like to be able to purchase a car. How much is the value of the car today? We then adjust that amount of money to the future value of whatever that money is. So in other words, what will this, let's say the car is 500,000 Rand. What will 500,000 Rand need to look like in 5 years' time for you to be able to still purchase the same car? So we adjusted for inflation, right? Because inflation is, of course, the rate at which prices go up. Right. So we would need to then adjust that and then reverse engineer how much he's going to need every single month to put away so that he can be able to accomplish that goal after 5 years when he's now in post-retirement. Of course, I'm saying it very simply, so I'm going to go through an example with education so that you get a sense of what it is that I'm talking about. So I want you to take or rather paint yourself this mental picture, right? You've got an 8-year-old right now who's going to go to university at age 18 or when they turn 19. So let's say, for instance, you've got 10 years to be able to invest for your child's education. The first thing we need to ask is, how much do I need in 10 years' time so that my child is able to go to university without it becoming a burden on me because I did not pre-plan for this university fee? So let's say, for instance, your child says, Mom, I want to go to study a 3-year degree at university. The 3-year degree is going to cost 240,000 Rand. In other words, 80,000 Rand every single year. Right? So now we know that we need 240,000 Rand. But 240,000 Rand is the present value of a 3-year degree. So in other words, it is today's money of a 3-year degree. Now, of course, we also know that education inflation is not the same as normal inflation. So if we are going to be adjusting that money, we need to make sure that we are adjusting it with the education inflation rate. We can make an assumption of what we think the education inflation is going to be for the next 10 years. So step number 1 for us is to figure out what is 240,000 Rand in future value. So we calculate what is the future value of 240,000 Rand in 10 years time, right? So we're going to come around, let's say we're assuming the education inflation is sitting at 8%. We're going to then adjust that amount of money, do a calculation of 240 in 10 years time at 8% inflation. We're going to come up with an amount around about 561,000 Rand. But what we also know is that we are not going to need the full 561,000 Rand in one go in year one of your child's first year, right? Because it is a 3-year degree. So in other words, your child needs to have enough money for first year, enough money for second year, and enough money for third year. So when we are doing our adjustments, we need to take that in mind, that we need to work out each year individually. So we need to adjust the 80,000 Rand individually for 3 years. So in year one, we're going to adjust it at 8%, but for 10 years. In year two, we're going to adjust it at 8%, but for 11 years. In year three, we're going to adjust the 80,000 Rand at 12 years, or rather, at 8% for 12 years. And that is how we're going to get the figure that we need to be getting to be able to understand how much money is needed in the how much money is going to be needed each year when the child now is in the years when they need that education money. So because we know that the money is not all needed in year one, right? So we've calculated what is the adjustment of 80,000 for year one, year two, and year three. So year one, for instance, you're going to need around about 172,714 Rand, right? And in year two, you're going to need 186,531. And then in year three, you're going to need around about 201,454 Rand, right? So these are the different amounts that you're going to need in the different years. So if, let's say, for instance, you are having this money then invested and it's growing at a return or an effective rate of 10%, we need to discount we need to discount year two and year three, right? Because remember, the money is going to be growing at 10%. So what we essentially need to do is a calculation where we are discounting those 2 years. So if we do the discounting of the 2 years, we come to around about 508,778 Rand that the parents will need, or you will need as a parent, in that first year. Right? So by the birthday, when the birthday hits year 18 and the child now needs to consider going to university, we know we need 508,000 Rand in your bank account. So what do we need to then do is to reverse engineer how much money you need to put away today so that you have 508,000 Rand in that bank account. Because remember, you're going to start drawing down from that 508,000 Rand in year one. You're going to draw down the 172,714 Rand. So whatever balance you're going to be left at, you need it to grow at the 10% so that you can still meet your full liability for the full 3 years. So now when we start doing the reverse engineering, we need to figure out what does it look like from an investment perspective. So we don't start off with the rate. A lot of people will start off with saying, which fund gives me the highest rate so that I can get to this amount very quickly? The reality is that even if we were to give you the fund that may give you the highest effective rate, you need to be able to afford that monthly contribution or the once-off lump sum that you need to put away so that you are able to meet your obligations or the liability that you are trying to achieve. But we also need to look at several things that go hand in hand with investments. Investments are not a place where we guarantee you 10% as a return on the money that you're putting away, and that's it, Bob's your uncle. We don't have to think about fees. We don't have to think about tax. We don't have to think about risks. We have to think about all of those things. So the first one we're going to be looking at is what are the risks that can potentially make it very difficult for you to be able to achieve this. Risk could be things like volatility. If you put your money in the wrong type of investment fund or in the wrong type of asset class, you could potentially be facing some level of volatility. So think about, for instance, a couple of years ago, if you had put 5 million Rand, for instance, into Sasol shares in 2019, hoping that you are going to get the upside of it in 2020 or maybe end of 2021, you would have been in trouble. Why? Because we saw COVID-19 hit in 2020. A lot of our economies were grounded and they were shut down, which means aeroplanes were not going anywhere, people were not driving, so fuel was not being bought from companies like Sasol. So what did the Sasol share price do? It went boost. It doesn't make Sasol a bad stock, but essentially it meant that the economy at that point was not conducive. Market sentiment was not really on the side of Sasol because essentially the product that Sasol was selling was not being consumed by any of the economies. So it's important to understand that there are risks when it comes to different types of investment classes or investment assets if you put your money in there. So we can't just say, as a parent, you now know you need to raise 508,000 Rand. So we're just going to get you the highest rate, effective rate of 15%, but we're putting you into a volatile asset class that could potentially not give you what you are trying to achieve by the time that you need this money in 10 years' time for your child's education, right? The second thing is we have to take tax into consideration. There are different tax systems for different types of investment classes. So if you're going to put your money only in income, you know that you're going to end up paying income tax, or rather, if you're putting your money into income funds, you're going to pay interest income. So obviously there's an exemption of 23,800 for anybody that is below the age of 65. So the first 23,800 is tax exempt. But anything above that, you're going to pay tax for it at your marginal rate. Why? Because it gets added into your total taxable income. So we have to think about those things. We know that if you're buying a property, for instance, if you're going to put this money into a property and then by the time you need the money, we sell the property and then there was a gain on it, you're going to pay capital gains tax. If you are putting it in assets where they're going to earn dividends, there is a dividend withholding tax that you're going to pay. So where we're putting this money, we also have to be tax efficient so that it doesn't eat away at the returns that you are hoping to be able to achieve so that you can meet this liability that you need to meet in the future. Then, of course, the other thing we have to think about are fees. People don't think about fees. Fees will eat away at your capital. So for instance, if you decide that you want to put your money as a lump sum and you're putting, let's say, a lump sum of 200,000 Rand, you must account for how much are the fees going to eat away at that 200,000 Rand, and whatever is left, can it still give you the goal that you are trying to achieve? So there's various things that you need to be thinking about when you are choosing. And then the effective rate is essentially something that we can work through at the end when we understand what are the different scenarios for different types of effective rates. So we can calculate how much you need to put away if you're getting an effective rate of 8%. But the 8% could be a trade-off for maybe you are somebody that is risk averse, right? So we need to make sure that we are accounting for that. So the 8% then becomes a trade or risk conservative rather. The 8% is there to make sure that we are then taking care of that conservativeness that you have when it comes to risk. If you're somebody that say, actually, I'm aggressive, let's go, I don't mind, then we do that. If we say, for instance, we're going into something that's going to give you 15%, maybe we're going into the stock market and you say, I'm looking for a growth asset, that's an aggressive asset, and you're saying, actually, because maybe I'm going to go into maybe not necessarily giving myself exposure to individual shares. I could potentially going into ETFs and unit trust, but still giving myself equity exposure through those. Then we can say, okay, there is a trade-off of saying we're going to go aggressive. We're going to go aggressive because we're potentially looking to score on that 15% effective rate. Remember, high risk, high potential return. So we need to incentivize you for taking the high risk. So these are some of the things that you need to look at. In actual fact, from our calculation that we worked on, if you are going to be going for a rate of 10% effective rate, a return of 10%, you will need to contribute around about 2,546 every single month for you to be able to achieve the goal of the 508,000 Rand by the year 18, or rather by the birthday when your child turns 18, or you can put in a lump sum of 19,000, I lie, 19,000 would be too easy, 196,158 Rand for you to be able to achieve that. So it is a mathematical equation, it's a calculation, it is a conversation with somebody who has the expertise to be able to assist you with this. And I say this with education, but it's also very, very important that you do your retirement outcomes. Too many of us are going into employers or going into employment where we are offered employee benefits. One of those is contributing to a pension fund where you're contributing, the fund is, or rather the employer is also contributing. You're just happy to be contributing. You are happy-go-lucky. You don't actually know what the retirement outcomes are going to look like. It is high time to sit down with a financial planner and calculate, am I going to reach my retirement goals? What are my retirement goals? What am I trying to earn in retirement? A lot of us are supposed to be aiming for that 75% replacement ratio, and we're not. And that's where that 6% of South Africans can retire comfortably stat comes from. Because only 6% of South Africans can comfortably, why is English a problem for me today? Can comfortably replace 75% of their current income in retirement. A lot of us do not have a picture of what we want our retirement to look like, and that's why the conversation about what should I be doing now to ensure that I get those retirement outcomes is a non-event. Because we don't actually know what the type of retirement it is that we're looking for. So it's important that if you do have a picture of what you want your children's education to look like, then you start having those types of conversations so that you are well prepared, so that you're not sitting with uncertainty of whether or not you're going to have enough money for your child's education, but also you don't waste time by making a mistake of going into a fund without doing the proper calculations and just assuming that because you're contributing to an education policy, it's going to give you the desired outcome that you are looking for. I'm going to leave it there. I will see you guys on the next one. Mwah!